the thing I love about baseball, as well, radio and baseball, of all the mediums, I feel like it's the one that maybe didn't change that much, compared to like TV and of course social media and all of that. Would you agree with that? But I mean, on that note, adding to that, what do you think has changed with radio and baseball over the years?
Well, let's take the first part first. That is a great point, Jessica, because watching baseball on television today does not in any way resemble watching baseball on television when I was growing up,
Yeah.
for all the reasons we know and others we can talk about if you want. But radio, you're right, is largely unchanged because the
Yeah.
responsibility remains the same. We are charged with the responsibility of creating images. It's the greatest challenge in broadcasting to me, to sit at an event and try to make someone who's listening see what's happening on that field or on that rink or court, wherever. And it's so energizing to do a game on radio because I had done radio before I did television. The first baseball game I did on television, I walked out of the booth going, this is like stealing. This is
Mhm.
easy. Half this job is done for you between graphics and
Right.
stats and producers, basically bringing their vision of that night show to the air. You punctuate and narrate more on television than you do on radio. So in that respect, radio hasn't changed. Now, what has changed is the fact that there are way more drop-ins than there used to be, meaning
Mm.
ideally they're 10 seconds, but we always seem to get twice as much copy as we're supposed to for a quote 10-second drop-in. But anyway, we have to stuff a lot more of those things in. Every little move is sponsored now. And, you have to stay disciplined to honor the client because that's what they are.
Right.
You didn't win, there was a book that the longtime Washington Senators broadcaster, the late Bob Wolf, wrote years ago.
Mhm.
And I forgot exactly what the title was, but the gist of it was it's not what you said on the air, it's how you sold the beer or something like that. And there's a lot of truth to that, even
Yeah.
today in radio, where you got a lot of sponsors who need to be respected. And so you can't just blow off those little drop-ins that really didn't exist 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that's where it's changed. But other than that, if you've had the right role models and you listened to the ones who did it best and you drew from them and you took from them the way it should be done, then I think there's very little difference now between radio today and back in the 1960s.
And there's kind of like a romantic aspect to it too, because I mean, obviously from the beginning, the radio, like you mentioned, like painting a picture, because I've been doing more radio in the last 3 years and I really didn't respect it, and not in a mean way, but it was kind of accidentally stumbled upon it. And the A's gave me so many beautiful opportunities learning from the great Ken Korak. Like, how do you
Yeah,
ignore
Ken's
that?
great.
Oh, he's amazing. And one of
Say
the
hi
most
for me,
beautiful,
please.
I definitely will. And just learning from him, you can't ignore just how beautifully like he presents it. And there's such a responsibility behind it that I didn't even really know existed. And to finish a game, you're not watching it, right? But you feel like almost you've seen the game better listening to it sometimes than actually watching it. And people don't realize the responsibility that's there, that
It's
it blows my mind.
and it should because it's a tremendous
Yeah.
responsibility. And if you embrace it, then chances are you're going to do it really well.
Yeah.
But you hit on something very interesting just on the periphery of this conversation, just about your youth and the fact that you're still kind of learning radio.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that I'll say the back end of certainly my generation, and then the generation that came just after me, or maybe on the tail end of my generation, would include people like Kenny Albert, Ian Eagle, that age range. That's the last group of us who
Mhm.
grew up aspiring to do radio first
Mhm.
and sort of move into television if and when the opportunity came about. My sense of things today is that most young broadcasters who created the dream of becoming an announcer immediately took to television as their
Mm,
goal
yeah,
and never spent enough time learning the not only the craft, but the art of
yeah.
radio when it's done well. And I just wish that more young broadcasters coming along today would embrace radio first and then make your move into TV.
I think there's like something about being vain behind it too. Like the TV's the goal, right? You want to be
Sure.
shown, you want to show off. And I think that that's fair to a certain extent. And I think there definitely is a youth aspect to it too. And on money's definitely more, there's more money in
Exactly.
TV, and that's true too.